Start or sit for mostly the NFC home game. It's calling a little bit of an audible today. We got the Friday and the Saturday games and the rest of the NFC slate. And most of those Friday, Saturday games are, of course, NFC home games. You don't really care. It's start or sit. It's the first one of two. We'll talk about players we love. We'll talk about players we don't like. We got some good rankings disputes today. Mike Davis, Nelson Agholor among them. Let's see who else we got. DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett. Looking forward to getting into those. Adam Azer, Jamie Eisenberg, Heath Cummings, Ben Schrager will probably pop on here or there. And this episode is sponsored by Express. Express is all new and all about you with a fresh assortment of casual, versatile, and super comfortable styles. Find out more about Express later in the show. What's up, Heath? You ready for Week 16?
I am fired up and ready for Week 16, Adam.
Wow. Jamie, how about you?
Yeah, Week 16. Can't wait.
Exactly.
Wait. I'm gonna get too many complaints about me mumbling. I'm sorry. Week 16. Yay! Let's go.
I heard that. I got that. All right, guys. Heath, I wanted to start out. You think? Did you say you think wide receiver stinks this week?
I don't like wide receiver at all this week. No, I'm not a fan of the position at all. There are maybe like 17 wide receivers that I really feel pretty good about. And then there's a big jumbled mess. And there's, like, in fairness to the position, there are like 45 wide receiver threes. So that's nice.
That's good.
But not enough guys to fill out my top 24 for sure.
So who's nervous about DK Metcalf? Do you guys have DK Metcalf in any lineups? And he had, in the first meeting against the Rams, 2 catches for 28 yards on 4 targets. Anybody considering sitting him?
No.
I mean, you can't consider sitting him if you have Brandon Ayuk. I'm trying to think of somebody else. Jarvis Landry. I like Landry better.
I would actually start Marvin Jones over him.
And Marvin Jones. You can consider those 3, sure.
Are you doing that with the assumption that Stafford is playing?
Yes. I mean, At this point, Stafford is playing, so.
Okay, but if he doesn't, right, we should probably just assume that he is.
I haven't seen any indication that he's not playing. Now, he may not finish the game, but at least he's going to start the game.
I just want to stay on this for a second. Amari Cooper, week 1, 10 catches for 81 yards. Very good. Stephon Diggs, week 3, 4 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown. So I guess saved his bacon there. McLaurin, 3 catches for 26 yards. Allen Robinson, 4 for 70. DK Metcalf, 2 for 28. DeAndre Hopkins, 8 for 52 and a touchdown on 13 targets. Kind of scary. I don't know. Where do you have Metcalf ranked?
13.
These are the stud wide receivers against the Rams, in case people didn't figure that out. Sorry, Jamie, what'd you say?
13.
Yeah, he's right around top 12.
Okay. See Deontay Johnson ahead of him for Heath. Jamie, how about that? Deontay Johnson or DK Metcalf?
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly buy that. I don't have that ranked that way, but that may change before the end of the day.
All right.
PPR. Not non-PPR, he's going to stay where he is. He's, like I said, just outside my top 12. He may fall a little bit in PPR. As a matter of fact, I'll do that now. I like that.
Okay. All right. And we'll find out later why one of these two has Tyler Lockett in his top 20 and the other does not have him in his top 30. Tell me what you think of the stat of the day. I was looking at Ryan Tannehill and facing the Packers and how much is he going to throw. So I said, I wonder what his fantasy points per pass attempt are. So I looked at the top 10 quarterbacks in total fantasy points and compared their points per attempt. Lamar Jackson, who I think is QB 10, he's all the way at the bottom. He's way at the top in terms of fantasy points per pass attempt. Makes sense because he doesn't throw much and he runs a ton. He's 0.98 points per pass attempt. Rodgers, 0.86. Murray, 0.83, runs a ton. Tannehill, 0.83 as well. A little bit, you go to decimals, a little bit behind Kyler Murray. That's followed by Wilson, then Watson, then Mahomes. He's 7th. Then Josh Allen. Justin Herbert and Tom Brady are way behind the pack. They are like much worse than the others in terms of fantasy points per pass attempt. But Tannehill stood out, Heath. He's basically, other than Jackson and Murray, the Russian guys, he's the second most efficient quarterback in fantasy points per pass attempt behind only Aaron Rodgers, and those two are squaring off.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it a lot this year. He was the second best quarterback in fantasy after he took over last year. He's been a top 6 or 7 guy so far this season, and now he's in a spot where he's going to, I think you just keep ranking him in the top 12. And if you have Ryan Tannehill, you're almost certainly starting him.
Is he going to throw it a lot in this? What do you guys think about Green Bay, Tennessee, one of the more intriguing games on the schedule?
I mean, if you go back to the Cleveland game, which I think is a fair guesstimate for what Tannehill will do because they were down early in that game and they were chasing points the entire game. I think he threw the ball, I'm going to tell you 1 second, 45 times in that game.
I don't see that happening.
Well, like I think the question is, how many 60-yard touchdown runs does Derrick Henry have in the first half?
So I try to map this out. Pass attempts when they've allowed 27 or more points. So this is what's so interesting about Tennessee. Even when they give up a lot of points, they still run the ball. 7 games, they've given up 27 or more points, and he's thrown 30 or more passes in 5 of those 7 games. That's a great number for Tannehill. And I think I'm going to get a lot of Tannehill questions. It's going to be Tannehill or Jalen Hurts. Tom Brady we always get Tannehill questions. But they've given up 27 or more points 7 times. He's thrown 30 or more passes in 5 of those games. He's only had 2 games with, he's had 3 games with 37 or more. So he doesn't always air it out, but you get 30. This is what I'm saying. You get 30 passes from Ryan Tannehill. You give him his points per fantasy. You give him his points per attempt. That's 25 points.
Stop
right there.
That part of the math doesn't work, because part of the reason that he has such a high point for fantasy attempt is because he has these A.J. Brown, Corey Davis 70-yard touchdown plays. And the games that he has those plays, he has low pass attempts and high fantasy points. His point per pass attempt in games where he throws 30-plus passes would be much worse than his points per pass attempt in games when he throws 25 passes. Because part of the reason he's throwing 25 passes is because monster plays.
You walk in knowing that there's a floor of 20 fantasy points, because that's basically what he gives you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's, where's the ceiling? Is the ceiling anywhere close to 30-plus points? And so I think he has that in this game because of the potential of volume. But the problem with that is that even though they may be chasing points in this game, the weakness for the Packers is their run defense.
Yeah.
So they still may run even though they're down. And I'm sure Arthur Smith, the offense coordinator for the Titans, who should be a head coaching candidate, is probably looking at it saying, how do I slow down Aaron Rodgers? I'm sure Mike Vrabel's saying that. How do we slow down Aaron Rodgers? How do we do what they do, which is dominate time of possession? Well, you have the best running back in football right now. See if you could dominate time of possession.
Yeah, no team has seen fewer plays on defense than the Packers. That's the other part of that. All right, no Twitch today. It's Christmas Eve. Hey, happy holidays, everyone. Merry Christmas. I don't think I'm going to be on the show tomorrow. I think it's going to be a Dave and Jamie production. So if I don't speak to you then, Merry Christmas, everybody. And if you're looking for a leg up on your bookmaker, we've got you covered on the Early Edge podcast powered by Sportsline. Every day you can join Jonathan Coachman and an expert crew of Sportsline handicappers to break down the biggest games of the day. Every episode is 10 minutes or shorter, and it's in your feed by 11 a.m. If there's a sharp side of the action, you'll be armed with it. And go check out the Early Edge podcast wherever you listen to fantasy football today. Jamie, championship week, who's our start of the week?
David Johnson, just like I thought when the season started. When we got to the championship week, we'd be going with the Houston Texans running back. So love the fact that he was so involved in the passing game last week. Love the fact that he's taking on the Bengals. And love the fact that Duke Johnson didn't practice again on Wednesday. So he's dealing with a neck injury. So I think all those things kind of factor in. But it's a great spot for David Johnson, who, has been a very good fantasy running back when healthy. Not a great one at times this season. But I think as we saw last week, if they can throw him the ball again, and there's 2 of 3 games without Will Fuller where a Texans running back has at least 6 catches. So if he can be anywhere close to that against the Bengals, who have struggled with running backs all season, but certainly lately, I think there's a great opportunity for David Johnson to be a top 10 running back this week.
Okay, are you going to change your outlook if Duke Johnson ends up playing?
I will not remove him from start of the week, but I will lower him a couple spots in the rankings. Right now, he is pending Ezekiel Elliott's return to practice and Tony Pollard getting dropped down a few spots. He will be in the top 10 still.
Are there any waiver wire running backs that you were starting ahead of him, including Le'Veon Bell, Tony Pollard, Savon Ahmed, Darrell Henderson?
No. The only one that I would consider if he still qualifies as a waiver wire running back would be Leonard Fournette, if in fact Duke Johnson does play. But I think I would still keep David Johnson ahead of him in my rankings.
Okay. The week has not gone well for the waiver wire running backs. Myles Gaskin is going to play, and Ezekiel Elliott is trending in that direction as well.
Well, Jeff Wilson is fine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, all right. So you wouldn't start Wilson over David Johnson?
I would not.
Okay. Heath, who do you love this week?
Huh. It's funny. I was just sitting here and I didn't know who the start of the week was. I was learning it and I was thinking about all these questions. I was listening attentively. It never even crossed my mind that you might ask me who I loved this week, which is
and I didn't give you enough time to prepare this morning either. I was early.
Right. I would say that I love Marvin Jones. I've got him as a top 10 wide receiver. We do expect Matthew Stafford to play. Jones' targets have been out of this world, and he does have a stinker or two, and there's a little bit of a risk in terms of floor, but at least 12 targets in 3 of his past 4 games. He may have like the second or third most targets in football since week 10, 6, 12, 12, 8, 12 in those games. And for the most part, he's been fantastic, including last week when he scored 27 fantasy points.
Ooh, do you want me to pour some cold water here? He's had 8 to 12 targets in 5 of his last 6 games. So I looked at all the wide receivers that had exactly 8 to 12 targets against Tampa Bay. There have been 9 of them.
I'm like, this is so Azer stat.
How many of them were with Carlton Davis not on the field?
Well, he practiced, didn't he?
He did not practice yesterday.
He did not practice?
No,
that would
change groin injury.
I thought he was limited. So there have been 9 wide receivers with 8 to 12 targets. They've been fine. They've scored 19, 10, 14, 12, 21, 15, 10, 7, and 17 fantasy points. So 4 of them had 12 or fewer fantasy points.
I mean, just last 3 days ago or something, Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage combined for 50 fantasy points.
Yeah, they did. No, it's just interesting because
Tyreek Hill had 270 yards against this defense.
Yeah, he's not Tyreek Hill.
Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp combined for 275 yards against this defense.
Okay. So you're not worried about the matchup?
I am not particularly worried about the matchup, no.
Okay, good. And who are we sitting? Who wants to go first? Who are we sitting this week? Player to avoid?
I'm scared of Chris Godwin. I don't know. I think I'm probably starting him against Jamie in one of our leagues because I'm not getting Christian McCaffrey back, which is sad. I'm going to go in second place, but his target share 11.8% over the past 2 weeks. He's been a low-end number 3 wide receiver since Antonio Brown joined the Buccaneers. And there's he might score a touchdown. The Buccaneers are going to score a lot of touchdowns against the Detroit Lions. That's the one thing that might keep him in my lineup. But the volume's just not there. They're spreading it around. A fifth of the targets go to running backs, whether it's LaShawn McCoy or Leonard Fournette. Mike Evans and Antonio Brown are leading the team in targets. And then you've got the tight ends taking up a fifth as well. Godwin's the odd man out right now.
I co-sign you sitting Chris Godwin this week.
You're not sharing the same sentiment?
I mean, I would never bench a Tampa Bay wide receiver against the secondary. So, yes, the target share is bad. But he said there's so much touchdown potential for him in this game that he could score twice. So he may not get double digits in targets, but I think we'll probably still see him in around 6 or 7. And so I don't know if you need much more than that against Detroit.
Would you guys? I know Heath would start Marvin Jones over Chris Godwin. How about you, Jamie?
Oh, I would. I think Chris Godwin's I think Marvin Jones, is in a better spot. But I just look at it that this Detroit secondary is such a mess. And this defense is such a mess that with the way Brady's playing right now, all of his receivers are in play. I have Antonio Brown just outside my top 24. I think all 3 of those guys are worth starting.
Okay, so who do you want to sit this week then?
I'm nervous about Kareem Hunt, and it has nothing to do with necessarily the Jets' run defense, which they just lost Quentin Williams for the rest of the season. It's more about how game flow goes and game script for him. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. And in 3 of those last 4 games, Kareem Hunt has been bad because they've won. And in the game that they lost against Baltimore, he was fantastic. And so it's a pretty easy pattern to follow that when they're winning, he's just not as much part of what they do. And so in those 3 victories, he's got 1 touchdown, only 7 catches on 9 targets. In the game that they lost, he was awesome against Baltimore. So I just don't see him having a huge role unless they just decide to give him some opportunities in garbage time. But we saw the last time they were in garbage time against the Giants, it was Dearness Johnson getting the opportunity to help kill the clock. So it could be a bad game flow for a team that's 10-point favorites against a Jets team that I know they won last week. So you have to factor that in. Will they surprise you again? I just don't anticipate Kareem Hunt having a huge role. He could score. He could obviously do something that you would regret sitting him. And I'm not, saying he's an outright sit, but I just don't love the setup for him if they're going to win this game and win this game by double-digit points.
It would be pretty funny if Jacksonville won this week and the Jets also won.
According to our source in Jacksonville, the phones were ringing off the hook for season tickets already. Like, that's how excited they are about the opportunity to get Trevor Lawrence.
They come way too close to winning games though, so they better stop that.
Our buddy, you could probably guess who it is. Go ahead, drink. Said that they should not play James Robinson because he gives them too much of a chance to win.
I know. Or Minshew, I guess. Would you start Jeff Wilson over Kareem Hunt?
I would, yes, even in PPR.
How about Chris Godwin or Kareem Hunt, guys? Who do you like better?
I like Chris Godwin better.
Godwin in PPR for sure.
All right, let's go to our news and notes here. We got a lot of them. Jacksonville hasn't decided on a starting quarterback. Here's your quarterback news. Derek Carr practiced in full. Are you guys ranking Carr or Mariota?
Carr. Anytime somebody practices in full, we rank them.
Okay. Do you like Derek Carr against Miami?
I do not. I mean, the Dolphins secondary has been fantastic all season. Certainly lately, the only quarterback to get over 20 points against them was Mahomes, and we saw he threw 3 interceptions and had 21 fantasy points. So a banged up Carr, like, this is the risk you run in a 2-quarterback or super flex league, is that while he's practicing in full, is he 100%? And do you run the risk of, like we saw with Stafford last week, where if the game is out of hand, they pull him, or he, pulls up lame with his injury? So it's a risk to trust him in those formats. And certainly it's a risk to trust
correct me
him
if I'm wrong. Stafford never practiced in full last week, right?
No,
he didn't.
But we know he's dealing with an injury, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but the practicing in full is encouraging.
Very encouraging.
Okay, let's fly through these. Ready? Who's going to start at quarterback for Washington?
Dwayne Haskins.
Okay. Matthew Stafford's questionable, but we expect him to play. Daniel Jones is going to start. Running back news. James Conner expected to play. Conner or Kareem Hunt?
Hunt.
Hunt over Steelers running back.
Ezekiel Elliott thinks he will play. And does that mean they're both sits?
Probably, but Pollard I would prefer over Zeke.
They will both be outside of my top 25 if Elliott's active.
Christian McCaffrey missed practice. Myles Gaskin is off the COVID list. James Robinson could play this week. Antonio Gibson was limited in practice, so he hasn't been ruled out yet. Still not ranking him. Chase Edmonds missed practice. He was missing practice last week as well, and he ended up playing. Damian Harris practiced for New England, and they've got the Monday night game against Buffalo. Keenan Allen missed practice right now. We don't know if Keenan Allen is going to play. We'll have to check on that, and I assume that would have an impact on Justin Herbert's ranking. That game will be previewed tomorrow. Traquan Smith missed practice. They got the Friday game. Juju says he's not going to dance on the opponent's logo anymore. Well, he's got a home game, so let's see if he dances at midfield before this game against the Colts. Stephon Diggs practice. He's looking good. Did John Brown actually make it to practice? I know he was scheduled to practice.
I didn't see. I'll check.
Oh, they have the Monday game, actually, so maybe
they'll practice tomorrow or today in full.
Okay. Julio Jones missed practice, not expecting him. Tyreek Hill, yes, we're expecting him, not Galladay. And Heath, what are you ranking Parker and Gesicki right now?
We are not yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if that changes by the end of the day.
Okay. Defensive stuff. We've got Bradley Chubb injured for Denver. They're at the Chargers. DeForest Buckner dealing with an ankle injury for the Colts. I think he played through it last week, though. Quinnen Williams out for the season, as Jamie mentions. Jets' top defensive player, defensive lineman anyway. Marcus Peters questionable. He's trending in the right direction. Dallas, already a bad defense. They're going to be without at least 3 starters on defense, possibly 5. Leighton Vander Esch is not going to play. So better news for Miles Sanders. Looking forward to talking about him. But Darius Slay in that same game, Darius Slay is expected to play. That could be a problem for Amari Cooper. We'll find out. Tampa Bay. Yeah. Okay. So both safety Antoine Winfield and Carlton Davis missed practice for Tampa Bay yesterday.
I thought Winfield did return. No.
Maybe that's what I got confused. Maybe he was limited and
Okay.
Davis missed. Okay. And
in terms of John Brown, according to Joe Buscaglia of The Athletic, he said the only players that he did not see at practice were Gilliam, Williams, Reggie Gilliam, Darrell Williams, and Andre Roberts. So I'm going to take that John Brown did practice in some capacity.
okay. Chicago has two cornerbacks who missed practice, Buster Screen and Jalen Johnson, and both of the Niners starting safeties are dealing with injuries. Big surprise. Most injured team I've ever seen. 60-second rankings disputes. We've got some good ones today. Here we go.
Antoine Winfield limited, Carlton Davis DNP.
Okay, there we go. Thank you for clarifying. My bad. 60-second rankings disputes. We got some good ones. Here we go. DJ Moore is top 20 in non-PPR for both of you guys, but for Heath, you have him 27th. DJ Moore at Washington in PPR, and Jamie, you have him 12th. Jamie, I'll give you the first word. Top 12 for DJ Moore.
I just think he's playing great. I know this Washington defense is tough, but you saw what he was able to do coming back last week from his extended absence, or excuse me, 1 game absence from being placed on the COVID-19 list. He scored 19 PPR points in each of his last 3 games. He was able to finish. That's an Azer stat to a certain extent because he left late in the Minnesota game, but still did not finish the game. And I don't necessarily look at this Washington defense as a lockdown secondary. In their last 5 games, 6 receivers have scored at least 14 PPR points against them. So I think DJ Moore can get to that number.
Yeah, I don't want to be the low guy on DJ Moore. I'm starting DJ Moore in 2 different championship games where I have him. The only thing I would say is I do think he should be a little bit lower in PPR than he is in non. He only has 2 games since week 6 with more than 4 catches. His catch rate for the season is down quite a bit because they're using him in a different way. But I did move him up, and I've got him 17th now. So
okay.
I can add one more wide receiver that I kind of feel good about.
Okay, great. Well, you can add him to the list along with Nelson Agholor, who you still have in your top 20. Jamie has outside the top 36 right now. So Heath, you're the high guy on Agholor. Big difference in the rankings here.
Right. Yeah. I listen, he's got 45 targets over his last 5 games. And while I do think, I believe in this Dolphins defense and their talent, they have given up a ton of points to wide receivers in games over the last 5 weeks. Tim Patrick had 16 PPR points against them, both Brashad Perriman.
That's fluky.
That was fluky, yeah.
Well, then there's 5 fluky weeks in a row because Jacoby Myers had 17 or 23 PPR fantasy points. 18, sorry.
18, yeah.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill had 20 plus. Tyler Boyd, another fluky one, had 17 PPR points.
No, he didn't have 20. Where are you looking at this? Am I wrong? I thought maybe he had rushing totals.
He had a 32-yard rushing touchdown.
Oh, that's dumb. Okay, fine. He had 79 yards.
Look at so 5 weeks.
They did a good job against him.
They did
against Tyreek Hill, I'd say anyway. 3 catches, 79 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets.
I would take that from Nelson Agholor.
Yeah, me too, but that was Tyreek Hill.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just pointing out.
I like it.
5 weeks in a row, whether it's fluky or not, the Dolphins have not been good against the other team's number 1 wide receiver.
Okay. By the way, Heath, I looked at the last 5 receivers who came into the Dolphins game with 45 or more targets over their last 5 games. No, I'm just kidding. JB, not as high on Nelson Agholor.
I'm sorry?
You're not as high on Nelson Agholor, not even a top.
No, I think you got an injured quarterback or a quarterback that's not very consistent in Marcus Mariota. And Agholor has 2 great games in this stretch of 45 targets and 2 mediocre games. And I'm going to bank on him being mediocre in this game against this defense that I believe in them. I believe in Brian Flores. I believe in this group. I believe in the secondary. Xavier Howard is having a great season. So I'm just not buying Nelson Agholor this week, despite the fact that the targets have been there for him. So he could obviously score. He's that type of receiver. I know Heath usually justifies guys like this as boom or bust. You obviously think he's going to boom. I think he's going to bust.
Okay, I mean, I think that's a pretty good way to look at it with Agholor. And let's talk about Mike Davis. Heath, I'll give you the first word again. You're the high guy on Mike Davis. You have him as a top 12 running back. Jamie, you have him outside your top 20. So both of you have him as a starter, but obviously in much different ways here. So Heath, Mike Davis at Washington.
Yeah, I think this is probably one where he belongs in the teens in between where the two of us have him. But I do think it's a situation where he's probably going to get 15 touches, and he has been good more often than he's been bad. And I still expect he's probably going to catch 2 to 3 passes. And so I'm probably starting Mike Davis.
Jamie?
Washington is among the leaders in fewest receptions and touchdowns allowed to running backs. And I know Davis was good early in the season, but lately he's been kind of miserable. He scored 10 PPR points or less in 6 of his last 7 games without McCaffrey. So he's touchdown dependent at this point. And if he doesn't score, I don't know how good he's going to be.
Okay. And Tyler Lockett, last one here. It's just like Agholor. I mean, the rankings are pretty similar. Jamie's got Lockett outside the top 30. Heath has him as a top 20 guy, 17th, I believe. Is that right? Does that feel right?
He's right around 20, yeah.
Okay. So, Jamie, you're sitting Lockett, number 3 receiver, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, 5 of his last games with 10 PPR points or less. Last week played out kind of like I thought, 4 catches, 34 yards on 7 targets. Last time he played this team, he had 5 catches for 66 yards on 9 targets. I kind of think that's the ceiling for him at this point, so 11 PPR points would be fine. I don't think that anybody would be like totally upset about that compared to what he gave you last week, but I don't know where the ceiling is at this point because he's not scoring touchdowns anymore. And this defense typically has Russell Wilson's number. So I'd be concerned about Lockett.
All right, Heath. I
think I like Wilson just a little bit more than everybody else. And I am still mostly in the I'm starting Tyler Lockett range. This has kind of goes back to the Mike Davis thing with the full season versus the last month or the last 6 weeks. And I'm just sticking with Tyler Lockett this week.
Okay, who would you start him over? How about DJ Moore or Tyler Lockett?
I've got DJ Moore 1 spot ahead of Lockett.
All right, how about some running backs? Jeff Wilson, Tyler Lockett.
Lockett.
I mean, Wilson for me.
Dolphins or Cowboys running back or Lockett?
Lockett.
Myles Gaskin. And probably Lockett over the other guys.
So you're Gaskin over Ahmed now?
Yes.
Okay. I have no idea. I have Ahmed ranked higher right now, but I have we don't have any history.
I think the only history we go by is that, Gaskin was their guy, and did he do anything to lose the job?
And you think no?
I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if, and this is just total speculation. Did he do something to put himself in a position to, contract COVID-19?
Oh.
I haven't seen any reported like that. I'm just, something like that we don't know of is what I'm getting at, I guess.
Who backed up who in college?
Well, Gaskin's older, right?
I think so. Yeah, he must. Well, he finished in 2018. Let's see. Savon Ahmed finished in 2019. So, yes. So, maybe they go seniority. We'll see.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
It could be a situation where they play them both. And, like I've been saying all week, it could be like the Buffalo situation where, neither guy stands out above the other, and they're both getting basically the same amount of work in different capacities. But, I mean, Myles Gaskin has been good more times than not when he's been the healthy guy. We just have not seen him healthy at the same time.
Almost ready to talk about Jalen Hurts. We are just about there. But first, we have to talk about 40 to 60% off everything. I'm at the Express website right now, express.com. Pretty easy to remember. Our gift to you, 40 to 60% off everything. That's what it says. And the prices on Express are already like, wow, these are really good values, great prices. It might be a little bit late to buy someone a Christmas or holiday present or whatever, but it's really not. It's not too late. This is a great opportunity here. So go out there, get yourself something. They got men's clothing. They got women's clothing. It's so comfortable. This is the new Express. Comfortable and cozy, quality fabrication and designs, versatile styles. You're going to find anything you need from head to toe, honestly. I got a bunch of dress socks from Express. I love them. They're terrific. I was wearing one of my 2 button-down shirts from Express on HQ yesterday. I've got a couple of sweaters. I got a jacket, like a fall, spring, coldish weather, but not super cold weather jacket. And they have so much stuff. The Luxe Comfort Knit collection is awesome. It's like wearing blankets. It's so good. They have super soft jeans made with extra stretch and super soft fabric. We've all been so thrilled with our Express clothing. My wife has been like, damn, these are really, really nice. And the price, again, is just amazing. You cannot beat it. So get there right now, express.com. It's all new. It's all about you. Check the new holiday styles, the gifts, and the best deals of the season. They got 40 to 60% off everything right now. That is absolutely terrific. All right. So express you this holiday. Shop the best deals on new styles and gifts now in stores or online at express.com. All right. The Startometer / Confidence-O-Meter for the last 3 games we will talk about. Heath, Carolina and Washington, who are you confidently starting?
J.D. McKissick if there's no Antonio Gibson. Logan Thomas, as long as it's not one of the practice squad quarterbacks.
McLaurin?
No, I'd start DJ Moore over McLaurin for sure.
Okay. So we'll call him like a 2-3 wide receiver, 2/3 kind of deal.
2/3.
Okay. And then for Carolina, Mike Davis. Oh, wait,
Mike Davis is a number 2 running back.
Okay. And we've talked about DJ Moore, so he's a start. Anything to add, Jamie, or should we move on next game?
I like McLaurin a lot this week. I mean, you've seen a pretty consistent pattern of anytime he gets 7 or more targets, and I think he's going to get 7+ targets in this game. I like the matchup for him. I think it's so interesting because is Ron Rivera going to try and stick it to his former team? And so, I like what I saw from him last week with the 7 for 77. He hasn't found the end zone, so he's better in PPR than non-PPR. But I think it's going to be a game where he scores.
You just don't know if they're going to throw like 25 times. Trying to find their pass attempts. Pass attempts last 5 games: 25, 27, 46. 32, 55. That's just weird.
It's winning versus losing.
Yeah, one of the games they won with a bunch of pass attempts, that was the Steelers game, but for the most part it is winning versus losing. I assume they're favored in this game.
I think they're 5-point favorites.
Yeah.
I mean it kind of impacts McKissick as well.
It does. Absolutely. That's why I was surprised you were that confident in Terry McLaurin.
I mean, it impacts McKissick obviously a lot more if Gibson's back, but he's their leading rusher right now.
He's not their goal.
Yeah. I'm sorry, it's only a 3-point spread currently.
Okay,
so closely.
Tennessee at Green Bay. Is there anyone that we're concerned about, or is this like bonanza time?
Oh, this is bonanza worthy.
Why would you say that?
I've been so good all year. Okay, yeah, like Corey Davis. How about Corey Davis?
Very good number 2 receiver despite a tough matchup.
Yeah, he's probably going to see a lot of Jair Alexander, as we heard yesterday from Jacob Gibbs. But what is my Corey Davis stat? He has played in 6 games in which Ryan Tannehill has thrown 30 or more passes, and he has 4 100-yard games in those 6. He has scored 15 or more PPR fantasy points in 5 of those 6. So that's cool. That's 4 games with 100 yards out of 6 when Tannehill's thrown 30 or more passes, and the Packers have allowed only 3 100-yard receivers all year. So that's fast, and nobody's sitting A.J. Brown, and he won't see a lot of Alexander. But Heath, do you have any hesitation with Corey Davis?
No, not really. I mean, it's a bit of a FOMO play, I think, that you like. There's some risk, but you don't want to miss out on what the big game is from Corey Davis.
Yeah,
he got you here.
All right, Miami and Las Vegas. Heath, who are you confidently starting in this game?
I don't think there is a Dolphin, no matter who's healthy. So I'm starting Darren Waller for sure. I'm starting Josh Jacobs, and I'm starting Nelson Agholor as a number 2 wide receiver.
What about Gesicki if he plays? Given the state
he is a low-end starting tight end.
Okay, and you guys don't have Josh Jacobs ranked super high this week, if I'm not mistaken, right?
He's in the teens, I think.
Yeah, I mean he's a safe number 2 running back, but he's obviously volume dependent, as we saw last week. I mean, he didn't play great last week. He had a 20-yard run. That was nice. And I think the 3 catches are great. But, I mean, it took 26 carries to get 78 yards, and that's including a 20-yard run.
They're 3-point underdogs. Josh Jacobs has not been very good when they've lost. Last week he was good because he got, 25 carries, something like that?
26. Yeah.
26 in an overtime game, but not been very good when they've lost. And Dolphins' run defense has been great lately. When Christian,
did they have the ball in overtime? 1 possession, right?
Yeah. I think they went 3 and out or something like that.
Right.
All right, let's go to the games then. And Philadelphia at Dallas. Your stat of the game: 14 wide receivers have had 90 yards or a touchdown against Dallas in their last 9 games. Those are the games they play without Dak. 14 wide receivers in 9 games, 90 yards or a touchdown. Will we get 90 yards or a touchdown from an Eagles wide receiver, Jamie?
I think you'll get a touchdown. Which one scores, I couldn't tell you. The fact that Jalen Reagor is practicing is, encouraging if you're looking for a flyer, discouraging if you were hoping to maybe pare down some of these options and look at Greg Ward, who scored 3 touchdowns in the 3 appearances that Jalen Hurts has made. Jeffrey, who scored in one of those games, I believe led them in receiving yards last week, or was close to it with 63 yards. Quez Watkins, who's playing more, he scored last week as well. Obviously, I wouldn't rule out a Travis Fulgham touchdown, if he's able to get in there too. So it's just, this is one of those things where it's like Lamar Jackson, except there's no Marquise Brown, where someone's going to score because the quarterback is going to play well. It's just a matter of who's the player that's going to score. Like, I'm in a matchup against Dave where my flex options are terrible. And I picked up Greg Ward. And so I may play Greg Ward. Or maybe, let me go check. How ironic would it be if I played Jalen Reagor against Dave, the guy that I loved in the preseason, the guy that Dave thought was going to get over 100 targets, the guy who could come back and, he's available. Oh, wrong league.
All right, Heath, let's talk about Jalen Hurts. You guys both have him 5th. Dave has him 8th. You would start, the two of you would start Mahomes, Rodgers, and Josh Allen ahead of him. There's a little bit of a difference here with Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson. Heath, you have Watson ahead of Hurts. Jamie has Hurts 1 spot ahead of Watson. But talk about Kyler versus Hurts. I'm getting that question a ton. You're going with Hurts. Jamie has Kyler 1 spot ahead of Hurts. So very close.
Like, legitimately, Patrick Mahomes is the only quarterback that I would definitely say you can't sit for Jalen Hurts. I have Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, and Kyler Murray, all projected within 1.2 fantasy points, all like within a half a point of a 30-point projection. I love all of them. And I wouldn't argue, like, it's a 5-sided coin. They're all awesome. But yeah, I would, I like Hurts the 5th most.
I would imagine, since you have it in front of you, how far off is Lamar Jackson?
I was about to ask you that. Like, you guys have Jackson 7th. Dave has him 1st, and Heath has him 8th. So it's Jamie 7th, Jackson. And I was surprised that you had Hurts ahead of Jackson. Jackson has a much tougher matchup, but I mean, who's stopping Lamar Jackson these days? So yeah, you want to talk about that, Hurts versus Jackson, Jamie?
I mean, I love all these guys. Like he said, I think there's a very strong case for, several quarterbacks to be number 1 this week. Hurts being among them, Lamar Jackson being among them. All these guys are in such great spots. Deshaun Watson's in a great spot. We haven't seen him in a favorable game script in a few weeks now. And so this is an opportunity for that as well for him. So it's a very difficult choice for people that were able to pick up Jalen Hurts either along the way for whatever reason, or in the case like for me in one championship, block my opponent. And I did it in a league where I have Lamar Jackson, and I'm struggling with that decision because, again, it's, play with the guy who got you here or go with the guy who looks amazing right now. They both look amazing, so it's really but I just look at where the ceiling lies. And like you said, Lamar Jackson does have a little bit of a tougher matchup based on the opponent that he's facing. They both have a ton to play for. I mean, playoffs are on the line for both of these teams as the Eagles have clawed their way back into this. But I just think that there's a bigger scenario of what we've seen where, hey, the Ravens have built their lead. Go sit down, Lamar. Whereas Jalen Hurts, I think, is playing all 4 quarters.
Okay. Thanks for having no faith in the Giants. All right, so Jalen Hurts is a start, and Miles Sanders. Oh gosh, no, hell no. Miles Sanders is top 12 in non-PPR. He's top 12 for Dave and Jamie in PPR, 16th for Heath in PPR. I think it's quite a vote of confidence for Miles Sanders. Now, I did mention Leighton Vander Esch is out. Dallas Cowboys defense is just in a horrible state right now. But I was a little surprised at how high I saw him in the rankings. Heath, care to comment on that?
He has 18 touches in each of the past 2 games, and he's playing the Cowboys.
And over 90 total yards in each of those 2 games with Jalen Hurts. And so,
Adam, you might be a top 20 running back if you told me I was getting 18 touches out of you against the Cowboys.
Okay. Then how about the tight ends for the Eagles? Goddard or Ertz? Who do you like better?
Goddard.
Still Goddard, but I don't know if you can trust. It's the same thing with the receivers, except obviously the tight ends are much better. Can you trust either one? And I don't know if you can. Like, if I have Goddard, I'm not dropping him or trusting, even though I have it ranked this way. I shouldn't say that. I would pick up Tyler Higbee or Austin Hooper and play them over Goddard at this point. But that's the line for me. Those 2 guys.
Heath, you co-sign that. Hooper.
I am still starting Dallas Goedert. Like, even as disappointing as last week, and really the last 2 weeks have been, he's got 14 targets over those. Even last week when Ertz was better, he had more targets and played 73 snaps. So I'm still starting Dallas Goedert.
Okay. And honestly, like, Hurts, it's not like he was a bad passer last week. I mean, he wasn't great. He made some bad throws. He also made some very good throws. So you get those targets, there's a good opportunity there. Ertz also got a lot of targets. He only caught 2 of them out of 7.
I think Ertz led him in targets, right?
7 targets. I think
Goddard had 8.
Yeah.
Goddard had 8. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the Cowboys then. Andy Dalton is a low-end starter. Darius Slay is going to play, but they still have a very banged-up secondary. So Dalton, let's see, he's about 21 to 23 in the rankings. He's been around 20 fantasy points for the last 5 games. And
I don't hate him this week if you're stuck.
Right. And for Z, would you start him over Roethlisberger, by the way, Dalton?
Yes, I think so.
I don't think I would.
Okay. So try to get away from them if they both play. If it's just Pollard, if Zeke doesn't play, how high are you going to have Pollard ranked? Heath?
That's how we currently have it ranked. I think I've got him top 10, like right around 8th. But we're going to, like, if Zeke gets another good practice in today, we're going to have to change that in a big way. But he would be a must-start running back if there was no Elliott.
He says he's playing. We have to assume at this point he's playing. Like, we obviously don't have to make a Thursday decision. So for anybody that had, those typical dilemmas of, do I wait it out or whatever, you don't have to worry about that. Hopefully with the Friday game, not that anybody is, starting Alvin Kamara or comparing Alvin Kamara versus a Cowboys running back or Dalvin Cook versus a Cowboys running back. So you don't have to have that dilemma, but maybe flexes with the Cowboys receivers or, a Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen versus Pollard, for example, if you were waiting that out. But I think in terms of, at this point, you have to assume Zeke is playing.
Okay. And then how do you feel about Cooper, Lamb, and Gallup? Cooper, first game against the Eagles, he was terrible, but that was the Ben DiNucci game. 1 catch on 5 targets. Last year against the Lions, Darius Slay, I don't know how much they saw each other, but 3 catches for 38 yards. And I've kind of outlined Cooper struggled at times with the better cornerbacks. Yeah, I mean, and by the way, he's struggling a little bit lately. He's got 51 or fewer yards in 3 straight games, though he does have 2 touchdowns. So is Cooper a must start, Jamie?
I think he's a number 2 wide receiver. There's a few receivers that I don't love this week for a couple of reasons, and he's in that group along with Keenan Allen, just with his uncertainty if you're just looking at rankings, and T.Y. Hilton based on matchup. So Cooper's in that, low number 2 starting receiver range. I do think, and I'm just going to look, the fact that Michael Gallup practiced in full is probably not great for Cooper because we've seen Andy Dalton kind of look for all 3 of these guys. He's been a little bit different than Dak Prescott, where he's, not necessarily just kind of focused his targets or, at least early in the season, like we saw from Dak, where he was kind of going away from Gallup. So I think Cooper's a starter, but I don't think there, to go back to your question, I don't think there's a lot of confidence in Amari Cooper, or a question about the other games.
All right. Would you guys start Lockett over any of the Cowboys receivers? Or I know you'd start him over Gallup. How about over Lamb and Cooper?
I like the other 2 guys better.
I think I've got it Cooper, Lockett, Lamb.
I don't really understand why you guys have Lamb as I think you have him as a starter.
I've got him
number 3. Yeah. I know he's had like one good game with Andy Dalton, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I have it ranked, and I need to change it. I had it ranked as if Gallup was not playing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know that. Like, I think you could say he has had one good game from certain angles. He's had decent fantasy games, though. A couple of them.
I guess he's not ranked that high.
I think he has the same number of targets from Andy Dalton as Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, he's played the last 5 games with Dalton, and he's got 6+ targets in 4 of those.
Okay. All right. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, Rams at Seahawks on Fantasy Football Today. Rams at Seahawks. So last time these two teams played, we were pretty excited about Jared Goff, and he threw for over 300 yards but didn't score a touchdown. And that was kind of the start of this stretch for the Seahawks where they haven't given up a touchdown to a wide receiver in any of those last 6 games. Kind of crazy. So Goff is a sit. He's around 20th. Jamie,
the only thing that makes me nervous about Goff is where this game is being played.
Why? Oh, because he's good on the road?
Yeah. I mean, he's averaging over 24 fantasy points per game on the road.
Makes no sense. I don't buy
Totally.
because 2 years ago he was only good at home, so it's just like, or much better at home. And there are no fans, so I don't know. Okay, anyway.
It's so
Darrell Henderson or a Cowboys or Dolphins running back?
Henderson.
Henderson, but I don't like him.
And I haven't seen Harry and the Hendersons in a long time. The movie used to be on all the time. Yeah, probably not so great, but when you were a kid, all right.
In my head, this is how sometimes things stick with you.
Yeah.
Whenever I driving, or I guess wherever, hear a fire engine, I always think when he's yelling out the window.
I remember almost nothing about it. Didn't they have like a station wagon?
Yep.
Yeah, that I remember. Heath, let's reminisce about the days when Cooper Kupp was good. And can you start him? And what about Robert Woods?
He is Woods I'm starting as a low end number 1, high end number 2 wide receiver. Kupp is difficult. I think most people are probably going to sit him. I am probably going to start him as a number 3 wide receiver. The yardage has been bad in 3 of his past 4 games, but if you look at his fantasy points over his last 5 games, like it's 8, 14, 15, 6, and 25. That's a starting wide receiver.
Sure. Darrell Henderson or Kupp? Where's he from? I don't know. Is he from Seattle?
I believe he's from the Washington area. His last 2 games in Seattle. 6 for 90 and a touchdown, 9 for 117 and a touchdown.
So you're confident in him?
Confident? No. I think you got to look at the body work. But sometimes these things matter to guys. I don't know what the difference is, but
yeah. No, I always podcast better when I'm in Fort Lauderdale.
I do think like the body of work statement is important because he's on pace for a 90 catch, like almost 1,100 yard season.
What about
What
about the fact that Seattle is like smothering wide receivers lately? Like no touchdowns in their last 6 games, including against the Rams and the Cardinals, and they were okay against McLaurin, 7 catches, 77 yards on 12 targets.
The thing about that Rams game was interesting because, like you said, Jared Goff played really well in that game, 27-37. He did have a fumble. They had 3 I don't know how far out they were, but they were certainly in the red zone, rushing touchdowns in that game.
Yeah, always. That's what they do. So annoying.
And so, like that, because he was the start of the week that week. I thought Jared Goff's going to have a great game because he was coming off his bye week. I should have factored in he was playing at home. I think at that point we didn't realize the dire straits of his home performances. But part of it, I think, for this Seattle defense and the run that they've been on. So you said it started that game?
Yeah.
That was a very like this is where things you got to sort of dig a little deeper, because like I said, they played really well in that game. The next game is when Kyler hurt his shoulder in that game.
Yeah.
Then they got the Eagles with Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
Bad. The Giants with McCoy.
Yeah, I know. I got you. The Jets and in Washington. Yep. Yeah, I know. They have been a lot better, but the competition has certainly been a lot worse. All right. And Tyler Higbee is a top 12 tight end. Seattle is horrible. 57 yards or a touchdown to a tight end in 8 of their last 10 games. And Higbee's coming on lately. Russell Wilson is 14th for Jamie, 15th for Dave, 12th for Heath. It's really Wilson versus Baker Mayfield, Wilson versus Mitchell Trubisky. I think those are very interesting discussions. Jamie, where do you land on that?
I like those other guys better. I just think Russell Wilson is not playing at a great level for fantasy. It's just, again, the sample size. I know Heath will look at the season long, but the sample size of the last, month plus has not been good. And, I think Pete Carroll is happy with the way that they're playing. He's been ecstatic, in the media lately about the run game, when asked about it. And so if you just look at what, Wilson's done, he's, 16 fantasy points or less in 3 of his last 4, and he's facing a team that allows fewer than 15 fantasy points per game on average to quarterbacks.
Right. So Heath, how about you? Those streamers, Trubisky, Mayfield, or Wilson?
I'm going Trubisky, Wilson, then Mayfield. And I don't feel good about it. I only have Russell Wilson on one team in a final, and I'm starting him. But Trubisky and Mayfield weren't either available either. So,
okay. And how do you guys? Chris Carson's pretty interesting. The Rams are giving up the 4th fewest fantasy points to running backs, 3.79 yards per carry to running backs, and that was after kind of a slow start against the run game. So Carson's had mostly tough matchups since coming back. He's been fine. Is he a must-start guy this week, Heath?
He's a number 2 running back. I don't know that I'd call him a must-start, but he's a probably start. I would start David Johnson over him, for example. You're starting guys like David Montgomery over him, stuff like that, but I'm probably starting him.
How about DeAndre Swift against Tampa Bay or Chris Carson against the Rams?
I've got Swift in PPR, Carson non.
How about Leonard Fournette?
I've got Carson.
Jamie, Fournette or Carson?
Fournette. I think Carson, Josh Jacobs. I'll throw DeAndre Swift in there too. I think they're all kind of similar where the matchup isn't easy. You got to like the workload. You got to like what their involvement is in the passing game, more so for Swift and Carson than Jacobs. But again, Jacobs 3 catches last week, I think helps. But it's not easy. It's not an easy matchup whatsoever.
All right, the Rams DST is kind of low end this week. I think they're kind of around 10th. Yeah, 12th to 10th, 10th to 12th. So the Bills, the Browns, the Bears, the Dolphins, the Cardinals, for most of you. Yeah, those are pretty much ahead of the Rams this week for you guys. All right, Tampa Bay is at Detroit. Detroit has allowed 30 or more points in 4 straight games. Their defense is completely falling apart. So you guys like Tom Brady quite a bit. He's a top 10 quarterback. He's behind Jalen Hurts. But a really good starter. Would you go with Tom Brady or Ryan Tannehill this week?
Brady.
I'm
making that decision in the league.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What do you guys want to say about Leonard Fournette? Boy, this game, the Detroit Lions, they've allowed 14 or more PPR fantasy points to a running back in 11 of their last 12 games. They're absolutely horrible. Jamie, how much confidence do you have in Fournette?
A lot. As long as Ronald Jones doesn't surprise us and play, but at this point, everything that we're hearing is that he's not going to play. So, the fact that Fournette had 17 total touches last week, and I think he's going to probably get a similar workload. Now, he didn't run very well. 14 for 49 is not great, but he scored twice. He's going to be their guy near the goal line. And like you said, this team is absolutely miserable. There's actually been 7 times this season where a running back has scored twice against Detroit. And would not shock me if he did that again. It's just, that's how bad they are.
All right. How about Leonard Fournette or Corey Davis?
Fournette and non-PPR is the easy choice. In PPR, it's probably close, but I'd still go Davis in PPR.
I'd probably go Davis in PPR, Fournette and none.
Fournette or Keenan Allen if he plays?
Fournette. Can't trust Allen right now.
Okay. All right. So start Fournette. And then in terms of the Tampa Bay wide receivers, I know, Heath, you're not loving Chris Godwin. Do you still have Godwin ahead of Antonio Brown?
I have them, I think, back to back.
Oh,
I think I may actually have Brown one spot higher. I have Godwin one spot higher currently.
any hesitation, by the way, with Mike Evans? That's the one we don't really talk about that much.
I'm starting him.
Yeah, like I said, I'm starting all three of these guys to varying degrees. Brown just outside my top 24, but you know how I feel about receivers. I think there's always going to be like 30 some odd guys that are startable.
So you like Brown better than? Well, which Brown do you like better, Marquise or Antonio?
I just made that switch. PPR I had it ranked that way. Antonio over Marquise, but I would start now Antonio over Marquise in non-PPR as well.
Heath?
Marquise over Antonio.
How about Rashard Higgins or Antonio Brown?
Antonio
Brown, but that's close.
Okay. How about Juju Smith-Schuster or Chris Godwin?
Godwin.
Starter sit Matthew Stafford if he plays, which he will, it seems.
Only in 2 QB.
Want to hear a weird Stafford stat? You know, most quarterbacks, you figure, they'll throw 2 touchdowns, right? It's like kind of a normal number. In his last 10 games, he does not have 1 game with 2 touchdowns. He has 3 with 3. He has 6 with 1, and he has 1 with 0. And that is why I think he has been one of the most difficult quarterbacks to predict, because he never throws 2 touchdowns. He throws 1 or 3. And it's just such a huge swing in his fantasy points.
His offseason is going to be one of the more fascinating off seasons, because do they part ways with him? If they don't, and he gets Galladay back, he's going to be one of these fantasy quarterbacks that we write off, and I think can bounce back and play well. If he goes to New England, which I think a lot of people are hoping happens for him and probably for the Patriots, does he have the chance to still be a good fantasy quarterback? Which I think is going to be interesting.
So teams are throwing a lot on Tampa Bay lately and scoring a lot of points. The quarterbacks are. They're not running the ball that much. And in fact, the Buccaneers have seen the fewest rush attempts in the NFL. So Heath, lay it out for me with DeAndre Swift, what you're thinking.
The fact that he's been so involved in the passing game and he's been so good when they've given him the ball makes me more comfortable starting him as a number 2 running back. He has exactly 5 targets in 4 straight games. We talked about the 50 catch running backs. He missed a month and didn't play hardly at the beginning of the season, and he needs 11 catches to get to 50. So he's been very, very involved in the passing game, and I'm mostly just starting him.
Man, this is such a crappy match. I think they're so good. They've held Kamara, Melvin Gordon, Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs to less than 30 yards. Kamara in the second meeting had fewer than 40 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, fewer than 40 yards. Dalvin Cook is the only running back with 60 yards. He had 102. But that's just, it's scary, you know. So Fournette or Swift?
Fournette.
I've got Swift higher right now.
Could you imagine getting to your fantasy championship with Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, DeAndre Swift? Trying to think of other guys just have these brutal matchups that are stars.
Yeah, it stinks. It's nerve-wracking for sure. Marvin Jones, we already talked about. He is a start. We like him quite a bit. And even though I gave that weird Azer stat, nobody cares about, which is fine. I don't really care about it either.
Who's healthy for the Bucs secondary?
Okay, so are you going to continue to rank him as a must start if Carlton Davis plays?
Yes.
I probably will. And one thing going back to Swift, and I just looked this up. You may have said it and I wasn't listening, but the Buccaneers do allow the most catches to running backs.
Yeah, as far as like against pass catching running backs, I don't know about catches, but yards, since week 2, no running back has more than 31 receiving yards. So
that's weird because they're giving up 40 yards per game.
Because McCaffrey and Mike Davis had like 103 yards. Kamara had 51. Yeah, maybe they give it up. Maybe it's distributed amongst other running backs, but since week 2, no running back has more than 31 receiving yards.
Yeah, it was like the Falcons backs combined had 65 last week.
Yeah, okay. At 65?
Yeah. 9 catches. Keith Smith.
Okay, he might have been the one that I missed. Okay. All right. Anyway, all right.
Adam takes out fullbacks.
TJ Hawkinson, must start.
Start him.
And Tampa Bay DST is top 12. They've faced some pretty tough offenses lately. Haven't been great. I don't know. They're not that exciting, I suppose. Minnesota's at New Orleans. This is the Christmas game. I've been waiting for this stat for a while. This is kind of surprising. There have been 15 wide receivers with 7 or more targets against the Saints. I've actually given this stat, but it's been like a month. 14 out of 15 have had 73 yards or a touchdown. 7 targets against the Saints, 7 or more, you're almost guaranteed to have a good game, which surprised me. Russell Gage is the only exception to that. And actually, in the second game, he did have a good game with 7 or more targets, I'm pretty sure. So the question is, will Adam Thielen get 7 or more targets? Because everybody's starting Justin Jefferson. But, Jamie, is Adam Thielen a must start?
I think he's a number 2 receiver. He's not a top 10 guy. He's touchdown dependent at this point. But it's hard. Again, it's like DK Metcalf. It's like Amari Cooper. I shouldn't put those guys in the same category. It's like DK Metcalf and these other receivers that you look at and say, I can't sit them because the potential's so good. The FOMO factor, So wouldn't shock me if Thielen has 4 catches and 2 of them are touchdowns. He's just that type of player.
I just looked and I haven't projected for 7 targets, so I'm moving him way up.
Awesome. Are you starting Cooper or Thielen?
Thielen.
Oh, Cooper for Heath Thielen. How about DeAndre Swift or Adam Thielen?
Swift.
Swift.
All right, let's stick with the Vikings here. Any interest in Kirk Cousins?
On the road in a big spot, no.
Nope.
Okay. Saints, very, very good defense. Dalvin Cook is a start. Justin Jefferson is a start. We just talked about Adam Thielen. Any interest in Irv Smith?
Not this week, no.
No.
Okay, let's talk about Drew Brees. He did struggle his way to 25 points last week. He also gave way to Taysom Hill for a rushing touchdown. The other stat of the game is that 6 of the last 7 quarterbacks to face the Vikings have scored 19 or fewer fantasy points. It has mostly been against weak competition. Detroit quarterbacks, Foles, Dalton, Bridgewater, Glennon, Brady only threw 23 passes, scored 19 points. Trubisky only threw 21 passes, but they have obviously gotten a little bit better on defense. So, Jamie, how much confidence do you have in Drew Brees?
He's a low-end starter. He's it's not a slam dunk, and I don't know if the ceiling is like 30 points in this game, but I do think you see a pretty consistent track record for him. I think it's now 6 straight healthy. I'll look it up. But his stretch of games that he's finished, take out the San Francisco game when he got hurt. It's like 23 or more fantasy points.
5 straight I have.
5 in a row.
Yeah.
And then his performance at home, he's averaging over 24 fantasy points per game at home in the games that he's finished, taking out that 49ers game. So I think you just look at those 2 things. We know he typically is at home. It's essentially a primetime game for him, in terms of spotlight game. So he's always usually been good in those spots. And I also think they want to get him in the rhythm. You got to get him going after the layoff. So he got off to a slow start last week. Like you said, he lost the touchdown to Taysom Hill. I don't think he's going to have a monster performance, but I do think that if you have him, like I have my quarterback situation in one finals is Roethlisberger or Brees, and that's easy for me to go Brees.
Okay, start Kamara. Who do you like better, real quick, Kamara or Cook, just for fun?
Kamara.
All right. Emmanuel Sanders. Nobody's got him higher than, looks like 28th for Jamie. He's around 30th for Dave and Jamie. He's closer to 40th for Heath. Emmanuel Sanders, 76 yards. So now let's look at his last 4 games. It's 51, 56 yards and a touchdown, 93 yards, 122 yards, and then 76 yards last week. Feels a little low.
What?
A little low on Emmanuel Sanders.
Oh, you said his last 4 games. You meant his last 4 games with Drew Brees and without Michael Thomas.
Yes, thank you.
Azer stats. Thank you.
Well, shouldn't we count? Isn't that what we should be looking at?
No, that's fine. I just was confused looking at the game logs when you were reading the numbers.
I mean, you've been working with me for how many years? You should know what the Azer stat is going to be.
It's pretty impressive that I deciphered it that quickly.
He's averaging over 16 PPR points in those 4 games.
I think you guys are a little low on him. Not gonna lie, especially you, Heath.
I don't know. I like a lot of receivers, so I think there's an opportunity for him to be a starter. It just depends again what your team looks like.
Yeah,
I'll move him up a little bit.
I would start Sanders over Marquise Brown over Tyler Lockett, over Juju.
Would you start him over Chris Carson?
Probably not. Let's close in PPR.
How about Darrell Henderson?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Ezekiel Elliott or Emmanuel Sanders?
Sanders.
Heath?
Sanders.
Starter sit Jared Cook.
I would prefer to sit him, but this is a touchdown spot for him.
Okay. And New Orleans DST is a start. San Francisco at Arizona. This is an interesting game. San Francisco at Arizona. Who's the best running back in this game?
Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, I think so.
I think Dave's a little nervous about Kenyon Drake.
I think we all are.
So why not Wilson over him?
I'm a little nervous about Jeff Wilson.
How come?
Yeah, I think you can make a case in non-PPR that Wilson's better. I don't have a problem with that. But in PPR, I think Drake has shown you a good enough sample size over the last month that he'll be involved in the passing game. Last week was frustrating. Chase Edmonds played better than him, played more than him, despite the fact that he was banged up all week. If Chase Edmonds doesn't play, that's going to be fantastic for Kenyon Drake. So if you're a Drake fantasy manager, you're hoping for Edmonds to be out.
Yeah, you think there will be involvement in the passing game? Because what I would be a little concerned about is that Kyler Murray is back to being awesome. He had his second highest ADOT last week, and that is not usually a good thing for Kenyon Drake. He did have, what did he have? 2 catches last week. So, because Kyler was throwing the ball down the field.
And how many did Edmonds have, though?
I don't know.
He had 3 catches.
No. If Edmonds is out, yeah, that's great news. But
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But if Edmonds is in, are we thinking Drake is not going to be that involved in the passing game?
I would say 2 catches is probably what you should expect.
Okay. Beathard, I went back, I looked at his 5 starts. Oh, this was kind of funny. I looked at his 5 starts from 2018 just to see his tendencies, and Marquise Goodwin came up just kind of naturally in my research. I was like, oh, what a nice sign that is. That's Dave's lucky player. But he threw a lot to George Kittle. George Kittle was really good. So let's hope Kittle plays.
Heath and I have a fantasy cops question for you.
Okay.
Say said fantasy player picks up someone to make their lineup illegal. And let's say said player is not IR eligible, but they stash said player on IR and win championship with an illegal lineup. Should they be allowed to be considered the winner if their lineup is illegal?
I mean, I guess it's probably up to the commissioner to have caught that before the game started. I don't know.
What if the person they're playing is the commissioner?
If you think it was an honest mistake, I don't know. I don't want to answer this question. I know it's not about me, but I'm very nervous right now.
Why are you nervous?
I just don't know who did this, and I don't want to answer.
You could infer based on the conversation we were just having.
Okay. Well, it's one of you two or Dave, obviously. No, well, just so make him drop someone.
I'm sure he will.
Okay.
I hope it's not the lucky player.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so anywho, where were we? I don't even know. Brandon Ayuk.
You were doing Azer stats about CJ Beathard.
I was saying you threw to Kittle a lot. All right, Brandon Ayuk is a must start, even with Beathard?
Yes.
Okay. Any interest in Kendrick
He's
Bourne?
on the verge of breaking a Jerry Rice record for, I think, rookies.
Holy cow. Any interest in Kendrick Bourne? We're not interested in Kendrick Bourne. Richie James was limited in practice. Starter sit George Kittle if he plays.
He'll be a start.
Any hesitation with Kyler Murray, or do you think he's back?
He's back.
I'm starting him.
The really good quarterbacks have just killed San Francisco. So
he's killed them in 3 games.
And they can't defend mobile quarterbacks. They couldn't last year. They've actually been a little bit better lately. Like Josh Allen only had 11 yards, but guess what? He threw like 1 million touchdowns and he was amazing. So Kenyon Drake and Jeff Wilson are both around 20th or so in the rankings?
Yeah.
Drake is.
Who, Wilson, I'm sorry?
And Drake.
Yeah, they're very close.
Okay. Dan Arnold is a flyer. He has 4 touchdowns in his last 5 games. Niners are usually pretty good against tight ends, a little bit worse lately. Start DeAndre Hopkins. And given that we saw more downfield passing from Kyler Murray, do you consider Christian Kirk as a sleeper this week?
I think you can consider him as a sleeper. I don't know if you're going to trust him in your championship week if you haven't been playing him all this time. So, I think he's in that dart throw range. Just to go back to Ayuk, he is just a little under 200 yards away from breaking Jerry Rice's 49ers rookie record.
A little dab will do you. Okay. Let's go to Carolina at Washington.
How great would it be if he did it this week?
Why?
To get to 200 yards receiving?
Well, sure. That'd be great. Unless you're playing against them, wouldn't be so great then. One thing to know about this game, Carolina has allowed 51 or more yards to a tight end, 51 or more yards or a touchdown to a tight end in 8 straight games. So would you start Logan Thomas or George Kittle?
I'd start Thomas still, but that's one that would probably kill me at the end of the game if I saw George Kittle play better.
Yeah, I would leave Thomas in as well.
Okay. We talked about Mike Davis, DJ Moore. How about Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel? How do you feel about them this week?
Not great.
No, number 3s. I might have to start Robbie Anderson, but they're number 3s.
Would you start Emmanuel Sanders over them, Samuel and Anderson?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Do you need the Azer stat again? I could give you another one.
Okay.
Here's another one. Okay. Washington allows the second fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. That's not really an Azer stat. Actually, the stat is, Jamie kind of mentioned this. In their last 7 games, screw it. I'm not even going to read this. It's just annoying.
Okay, you convinced me.
Yeah. So is Sanders over? It's just a clunky stat. Basically, they've been kind of hit or miss. They've given up some big games to wide receivers recently. They've also done well, so they've been kind of average. All right, J.D. McKissic. I know you probably don't start him in non-PPR, although Heath does have him as a starter, and he has gotten 11 and 13 carries in his last 2 games. But in PPR, how does he compare to DeAndre Swift, Leonard Fournette, guys like that, Heath?
I'm mostly starting him over those guys as long as Antonio Gibson's out.
And Jamie?
Right now, I have him in that range. I'm not comfortable with it because I do think that if Washington is winning this game, his reception totals come way down. If Washington is losing this game, his reception totals go way up. So if they're chasing points, then you're going to be thrilled that you have J.D. McKissic with or without Antonio Gibson. If they're not, I think it's going to be a little bit of a problem for him because he's going to have those empty touches that we don't love because he doesn't get the goal line opportunities. That's Peyton Barber. So you need a favorable game script for him, and you need no Antonio Gibson to play.
I do think the nice thing for him is that without Gibson, it now appears that his floor is what he gave you against San Francisco 2 weeks ago, and not what it was against Dallas, where he had 3 touches in the game. Like, I think he's probably still going to get you 6 or 7 non-PPR points, even in a game they win.
What are your expectations for Terry McLaurin? Guess a stat line.
Can I just tell you what I projected?
7 for 70.
I've got him at 5 for 69.
Oh, okay. Very close. And start Logan Thomas. And I think that's pretty much it for this game. I guess I can give you some J.D. McKissic or Terry McLaurin. I think that's a good one.
I would start McLaurin in both.
It is time for the Bonanza. Oh, I'm so sorry. Tennessee at Green Bay. And these 2 teams are 2 of the 3 best offenses in football. Kansas City, Tennessee, and Green Bay are top 3 in yards per play and scoring. And they're all almost tied in points. They're within 2 points of each other. Interestingly enough, in terms of yards per play on defense, they're very, very similar. But Tennessee has seen the second most plays in the NFL. Green Bay has seen the fewest plays in the NFL. So that is a really interesting kind of look at the way these 2 teams play. Ryan Tannehill is a start. Tannehill over Wilson, right?
Yes.
Okay. Ryan Tannehill or I know Jalen Hurts is ahead of him. So Ryan Tannehill or Justin Herbert.
Tannehill.
Yeah, I think I'd go with Tannehill. I think I have Herbert actually projected higher, but Tannehill's safer.
Tannehill or Mayfield Trubisky.
Tannehill.
Tannehill.
Tannehill or Breeze.
Tannehill.
Okay, so basically the guys who are starting ahead of him are like the studs. Lamar Jackson will be in there, and Jalen Hurts. Okay, start Henry, start Jones, start Brown, start Davis, start Adams, start Tunyon. What do you think about Jonnu Smith? We'll start with him, and then we'll go to MVS/Allen Lazard. Lazard got a lot of snaps last week. Jonnu Smith, Jamie, start or sit?
I would prefer to sit him. It was nice to see 5 for 50 last week for him. I think it was on 6 targets. So he was more involved in the passing game, but they've been, kind of using all 3 of their tight ends a little too much for my liking. And the Packers, for the most part, have been good against tight ends. So I would prefer to sit Jonnu Smith. I would start Austin Hooper. I would start Tyler Higbee. I would actually start Cole Kmet over him as well. So don't love Jonnu Smith.
Robert Tunyon, you know what you're getting. You're not getting a ton of yards. He has a touchdown in 5 straight games. Tennessee 21st against tight ends. They're not good. Allen Lazard, is he a decent sleeper this week? I mean, it's championship week, so I can't imagine too many people are starting Allen Lazard, Heath, but any expectations for him?
I mean, I think it's kind of the same with him, and you're just hoping that he gets a long touchdown. I don't think he's going to be like someone you really want to start.
Go back to Christian Kirk. Same type of guy.
Right. All right, so Miami's at Las Vegas here, and we've talked a lot about this game, but Josh Jacobs, you talked about it earlier, Jamie. He's in that DeAndre Swift kind of group, Chris Carson.
That's more non-PPR. Swift is obviously much better in PPR.
In 7 losses, he has 2 games with more than 6 non-PPR points and 2 games with more than 9 PPR points. You figure it'll be pretty competitive, though. It's a 3-point spread, so that bodes well. You should get the carries, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's not a slam dunk. Would you start Fournette over Jacobs?
I would.
You would start Miles Sanders over him. Let's see who's interested.
Yeah, like I'll give you a scenario. I'm in a championship where I have Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, and James Robinson. So had Robinson played, or if he plays, I will probably go back to him over Josh Jacobs. But
yeah,
those
but
other
not
guys
Jeff Wilson. You guys wouldn't start Wilson over him?
No. I would still start Josh Jacobs.
All right. How about Dobbins or Jacobs?
I would start Dobbins over Jacobs in non-PPR.
I'd start Jacobs.
What do you think about Tua this week, Jamie? Or let's go to Heath. Sorry, Heath.
There's too many good quarterbacks to start him. He's a Tua quarterback or super flex only.
But he is like top 18, so he's not. He's better like Tua or Cousins.
I'd start Tua if everybody's back.
Tua or Rivers?
I'd start Tua.
Okay. We love Savon Ahmed if Gaskin were out, but that's not going to be the case. So you're looking at flexes there. And if Devontae Parker plays, start or sit. If Devontae Parker doesn't play, any interest in Lynn Bowden? Jamie?
Yes, a lot of interest in Lynn Bowden if there's no Devontae Parker. But if Parker plays, it's like the running back situation. It becomes more clouded because how healthy is he? How effective will he be if he's out there? And so this defense is bad for the Raiders. They have a very, very difficult time stopping opposing wide receivers, as we saw. Tyron Johnson and Jalen Guyton, the non-top 2 receivers for the Chargers, beat them up last week. So it is a good spot for Parker. It is a good spot for Bowden if there is no Parker. But I don't think it's oh my God, I have to start Devontae Parker type of scenario. So if you have Parker, he's in that number 3 fantasy receiver range. Like I would start I'd start him over Juju and Tyler Lockett, for example, if he does play. If you want names.
I do. I love names. If Devontae Parker plays, would you start him over Gaskin or Ahmed?
I would not. I would start a Gaskin.
I think I'd start Parker in full PPR.
All right, then. Derek Carr or Tua?
Tua.
Carr. If he remains a full participant all week.
All right, we talked about Nelson Agholor much earlier in the show. He's quite high on Nelson Agholor. And Darren Waller, you are going to start. So Mike Gesicki, if Mike Gesicki plays, would you start Gesicki or Higbee?
Gesicki.
Yeah, Gesicki.
And this is a really cool matchup because Derek Carr does not throw interceptions. He has 7 interceptions in 14 games. The Dolphins do basically nothing but intercept passes. The Dolphins are actually
had 2 going into the matchup there for the season.
Who did what?
Mahomes had 2 interceptions on the season before he played Miami, and then they got 3.
Yeah, the Dolphins are actually the lowest. They've allowed the fewest points in the NFL, but per play, they've allowed the 10th most yards per play. That really surprised me.
That's a very Belichick type defense.
It's kind of true. All righty, that's it for today's show.
They've given up the 7th most yards to wide receivers this year.
That's wild. That's why you like Agholor.
That's why I like Nelson Agholor.
There you go.
It was all fluky though.
Well, Aguilar's probably going to throw an interception or 2, knowing the Dolphins. Okay, that's it for the Azer stats and for the mostly NFC home games, plus the Friday and Saturday games. Dave and Jamie will have the rest for you on Friday. We will have a mailbag on Saturday. Looking forward to that. Merry Christmas, everybody. And good luck. Good luck. No games tonight, so enjoy your Christmas Eve. Thanks again. See ya.
Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and nonstop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.